And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to the Faith is Motivation podcast. We've been hyping this up for a minute. We thank you for joining us. We know you've probably seen the ads. You've probably seen, me ranting. You've probably seen my co-host ranting and us going on. And we're just really excited to start this, and we're really excited to have you. I'm one of your co-hosts, Darien Hawkins. I am a real estate agent. I work at a factory. I am a basketball coach. I am a podcast host. So I have a lot of things going on. I really try to do the best I possibly can in life. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at TheHawk40 on Instagram and Twitter. And then I have two business accounts, one on Facebook, which is Darien Hawkins Agent. And then the other is on Instagram, and that's Darien Hawkins Realtor. I'm really not that hard to find. If you're looking for property in the Kentucky area, please just reach out, give me a call. And I am going to let my co-host introduce himself.
Hey guys, my name is Chris Horn, and I am a Twitch and Facebook gaming streamer on my off times when I am not working over on a factory or door dashing. If you want to actually catch me live over there on either platform, it is Reaper Killstreak. I am going to be streaming in the morning times. I won't have too much of a set schedule, but definitely come over and watch me, build, survive, or even FPS, especially if it's Call of Duty. If you want to reach me on my socials, Twitter at 000horn65, Facebook Gaming Reaper Killstreak, and then Instagram is Reaper Killstreak. And then also, if you want to get me on my business email, it will be reaperkillstreak859 at gmail.com. And we'll pass this right back over to you, D.
Yeah, guys, thank you. We really appreciate you tuning in. This is something it's been in the works for a while. We've been, trying to get this together. We got a wonderful team behind us. We've been doing a lot of planning. We've been doing a lot of preparation so we can deliver the best product possible. We've done some trials that we've worked out, and we've been able to send it out to certain people and get feedback before actually releasing this. So there's really a lot of work that went into this and went into creating this and that went into creating this product. And at the end of the day, man, faith is motivation. It's something that I would like to use as a platform to help people get better. I think coming from the background I came from, single mother household, multiple siblings in the household, then in my adulthood, having to sleep in my car for a couple weeks, to being evicted twice, to being forced out of my last situation, to massive amounts of debt, to getting to where I am now, which is extremely comfortable, right? Extremely comfortable, or would be comfortable for most people. I don't consider myself comfortable until I get to where I want to get to, but a lot of people consider my living situation comfortable, where I'm making definitely over 80K and probably over 90. I've been able to access financial freedom to where I can travel. I'm going to a lot of different places next year, as well as getting my first investment property next year and really working. So I want to give back. And my only goal with this is that anybody who's listening can walk away with one thing that makes them better. One thing. If you ignore 99% of the things we say and you can just take away one sentence, one phrase, one piece of advice, even if you never tune into another podcast, I feel like I did something. I feel like I gave back, right? Because the ultimate goal at the end of the day is to get 1% better each day. And if I can be a part of that 1% for everybody who listens, then I feel like I've made a change. Chris, do you want to kind of explain what this is for you and what you look to accomplish out of this?
Faith as motivation to me is something that's it's becoming a little bit more of a reality into my life, as I am, as you say, in another rebuilding stage. I've always been one that I'm a fighter. You can ask this man here. It doesn't matter what situation I can get in. I always fight back. And I'm now getting to a point in my life, it's like there's no reasoning I should have to keep rebuilding at this point. Being onto this podcast, I'm going to take the tips that I learned from him and when from the research that we pull up, put it into my life, and I've already implemented it. The grind is very, very real, but I will say it's a fun grind. There's things I still would like to do. I want to take everything. I'm going to be a sponge for the next 15 years, be at the point of sustainability and be comfortable.
this dynamic that we create with this, and one of the reasons why the team chose us to be on here, is because it creates two dynamics. Because Chris is growing a lot. Chris has grown a lot over the last couple of months, actually. So you get to watch Chris kind of come from a spot of having to rebuild and having to put those blocks together. And then you see me starting at a spot where I've already went through my rebuild, and I've already went through the financial struggles. I've already went through figuring out the equations for making more money and growing more money and building wealth. And you kind of get to see Chris learn it and apply it. It's not just us giving you advice and you taking it, oh, I wonder if this will work. No, it's us giving you advice, explaining it to you, and then you get to watch Chris act it real time. And he can give you honest feedback. So if I say something and it doesn't work for him, he can give you honest feedback. You say, well, this didn't work, but I found this way, blah, 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 blah. That way we kind of create two pathways and two obstacles, and it creates a really interesting dynamic, I think. I think a lot of podcasts who seek to motivate, you never actually get to see someone grow. You never actually get to witness a host grow. Chris, is there anything to add?
The only thing if I really had to say is just tough it out. It's the beginning part is always the toughest. It's like learning anything in life. You just got to stick through it.
Definitely hard when you start. I think most people, once they start seeing massive growth, they kind of fall in love with it, and then they can't stop doing it. And then it just creates this snowball effect where you want to get better, you want to get better, you want to get better, you want to get better. And you end up surpassing even your own expectations. And then you set higher expectations for yourself that you shoot for. Just to go into this, we have social medias on almost every account. I think we are not on Twitter, but we're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And our name is Faith is Motivation on all of those, except for Instagram, where it was taken. It is Faith is Motivation Pod. So Faith is Motivation POD on Instagram. Other than that, all of our other social medias are Faith is Motivation. And you should be able to find that. When this goes up on YouTube, it'll be in the description. And then our release schedule. Yes, let's go over this. So we've talked about this. We have a wonderful team behind us. We will be releasing a podcast every Sunday. So Sundays are going to be our official release. So that's going to be our official release. It's going to be the cleanest podcast. It'll be audio only. Okay. And then on Tuesdays, you'll get a YouTube exclusive of the full uncut podcast. So you'll get all of the extra content that we said, well, we don't really need this. We may have cut it out. You'll get the full discussion. You'll get to see me and Chris's faces. You'll get to see, the live videos. Sometimes when we do reactions, you'll get to watch the video with us instead of just hearing the audio. That'll be Tuesdays. And then Thursdays, we will release an extra video, something fun. Sometimes we'll do tips. Sometimes we'll, go back in the past and kind of explain what we went through. Sometimes we may do live interviews with people. It'll just be some piece of content that will also be YouTube exclusive. So you want to subscribe to us on YouTube if you can. If you just want to listen to the podcast and you just want to hear the full podcast come out, then you can, simply just follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That's all for that. So to let you guys know what we're going to be kind of doing over these next couple of episodes, we are going to kind of break down the foundation of this podcast. We're going to break down the foundation. So we're going to go over the 4 key points of success, right? Because obviously the point of this podcast is to motivate, is to inspire people. So all of these things go into self-improvement, and the 4 key points that you need to know for self-improvement is 1 is accountability, 2 is discipline, 3 is your social skills, and then 4 is your mental state. And then if you want to coop in your emotional control with your mental state, you can, or you can say that's number 5. So over these next couple of episodes, we're going to break down each of those points for you, right? So today we're going to go into accountability, then we're going to go into discipline on our next episode, then social skills, then we'll do mental state and emotional control together. But we're going to break down all of these points for you because they really build the foundation of everything we're going to do throughout this podcast, especially the first 2. You're going to hear us relate back to those a lot. So getting into accountability, Chris actually has, I think it's the Merriam-Webster definition for us, if you want to go ahead and give that to us.
The quality or state of being accountable an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions.
I think that definition hits it spot on. So when talking about accountability, you have to accept responsibility. What does that mean? Because a lot of people go around and they say, I'm accountable for my actions, blah, 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 blah. And it's just simply not true. Because in order to be accountable, you got to accept responsibility. So at the end of the day, you got to look in the mirror and you got to say, well, it's my fault that X happened. There's no, it wouldn't have happened if he, it wouldn't have happened if she, it wouldn't have happened if this, it wouldn't have happened if that. No, you have to say, it is my fault. It wouldn't have happened if I. That is accountability. It wouldn't have happened if I did not do this, or if I did do this, X could have been prevented, right? So that's being responsible. And you have an obligation to yourself to take responsibility for your situation. So everything that's happened to you, wherever you are in life, you have an obligation to yourself to say, okay, this is my fault. Because at the end of the day, who's really going to get you out of that situation? You. You're the only one. And I think a prime example of this, neglecting accountability is being overweight. Being overweight is neglecting accountability. And I would say that most people would prefer not to be overweight. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody's sitting around weighing 300 pounds saying, oh, I love this. I'm happy this way. And few are, I'm sure that very few people are completely happy. And if you're completely happy with that, go ahead, be happy. But I think most people would, if they had a choice, choose to cut off a couple of extra pounds and be at a more desired physique. And I really shouldn't try to sugarcoat my words. I just need to be straight up, man. Most people would prefer not to be fat. Most people would prefer not to be fat, but we like to neglect accountability here. We like to go around and we like to say, oh, we have problems and we can't help it, when this is something that's 100% in your control. 120%. You control every bit of food you eat. If you know anything about losing weight or maintaining weight or gaining weight, you know calories in versus calories out. If you ingest more calories, you're gaining weight. If you are releasing more calories, you're losing weight. You control how many calories you eat. You control how much you work out. So you control how many calories go in your body and how many calories go out of your body. It's in your control. So people like to run around. They like to say, oh, I have thyroid issues. They like to run around and they like to say, I have eating disorders. I have a bad relationship with food. I have a high metabolism or a low metabolism, whatever. And they like to use these excuses as a reason, well, I can't lose weight because of these things. But here's the thing, man. When you look at statistics, obesity rates have increased 3 times since the 60s. Okay, so in the early 60s, 14% of individuals had a BMI of over 30, only 14%. Today is closer to 40%. Why do we have so many of these issues now? Is this like a disease that you just catch in the air? Is it something that we're developing? What happened over 50 years that so many people now can't control their weight, but they could back then? Why is it only in America? We're one of the fattest countries in the world. Why do we in the West, right, probably Western countries in general, why do we have so many more fat diseases than the people in Japan? Japan, they have only 3 to 4% of their country has a BMI of over 30. Why are they able to control their weight, but we're not able to control ours? Why are they able to manage their thyroid issues and their eating disorders and their bad relationships with food? Why is Japan able to manage it, but we can't? And I know Japan has a culture where being overweight is unacceptable, but because it's unacceptable, they don't have the privilege of saying, I can't help it. They don't have the privilege of saying, well, I can neglect this. They have to take accountability. They have to. They literally have laws in Japan where if you're overweight, you may not be able to work. So it's like, okay, I know I have this issue. I know I have this thyroid issue. I know I have this medical condition that makes it harder for me to lose weight, but I have to still be accountable for it. I have to diet harder. I have to work harder than maybe the next person. Okay. Welcome to life. Life is unfair. Some of you have to work harder to stay healthy. Don't just say, well, I can't help it, blah, 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 blah. And if you're truly happy being overweight, that's fine. But here's another statistic. It was a study by a woman. I think her name is pronounced Florina S. Lupin. And she found that obesity increases the risk of depression by 55%. So even if you're happy now, you do run a higher risk of being depressed. And if that's something you want to accept, you know what? I don't think I'll ever be depressed, blah, 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 blah. Cool. But I'm speaking to people who want to make serious life changes and put themselves in the best position to be the best they can possibly be. And all I'm saying is it is in your control. Stop blaming other things. Take accountability. You are in control of your weight. Take accountability for your weight. Take accountability for your health. This is your health we're talking about. Everybody knows that being overweight comes with increased health risk. That's not even debatable. Take control of it. You are in control. If you want to lose weight, if being overweight is making you unhappy, if you would prefer to be in better shape, take control. It's going to require accountability. It's going to require strict discipline. It's going to require action. It's going to require hard work. Do it. I understand it's hard. It's going to be hard, but stop saying it's not your fault, because it is. Chris, anything you want to add to that?
To add on to that statistic that you had said, where fatness increases to depression, I can kind of vouch for that, for the simple fact that I was guilty for that whole pandemic, buying DoorDash, all that. I was 180 before the pandemic, healthy, going to the gym with this dude right here, and I was playing basketball and was destroying people. Now, 2022, I am 217. I can't really run like I used to. I can't do as much as I used to, and it gets to me, and it makes me upset. From 2020 to 2022, it made me it depressed me. It's like, but that's also because I was not accountable for holding myself to my old standards of being physically fit. You control what you eat, you control how you diet, you control everything of that aspect. That's really accountability. When you are accountable, you are in control of everything.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, we're going to get your fat ass in shape, but I do want to say I do want to say this, man. I do want to say this. You have lost a lot of weight since 2020, because I remember during the pandemic, we really didn't see each other much. And the first time we got together, I was like, just putting on some weight. Last time I saw you, you really don't look that big. I know I said we're going to get your fat ass in shape, but that's kind of a joke. So you're definitely doing a lot better, but I do think your eating habits have changed. I mean, we'll get you out, we'll get you running, and we'll do some other stuff, but you're definitely in a lot better shape than you were. So it's definitely in your control. And I think that's something that you've definitely improved on, and that's something you've definitely been able to grow with. So yeah, I mean, just hammering it home, man. You can take Chris as an example. You can use me as an example. I am naturally, if I don't work out and I don't go to the gym, I only weigh like 180, 175 to 180. I'm 6'3". I'm extremely skinny, And I looked at some before pictures, because I started going to the gym last year. I looked at some before pictures, and I think I looked unhealthy, right? So it's not only about being extremely overweight, it's about being extremely underweight. I'm currently 215, which I know that weighs a lot, but trust me, I'm not fat at all. It's definitely probably more muscle. I would say I'm slightly above average when it comes to physical health and physique. I'm probably slightly above average. I've been able to put on close to 30 pounds over the last year and a half. So, I mean, even for me, I'd say that it's not easy. I think it's easier for me to not be obese. It's easier for me to not be fat, but for me to actually be a healthy physique and not overly skinny is definitely not easy. I have to eat a lot. To maintain my current physique. It's never easy. It is easier for certain people to maintain a certain body, but for people to reach peak health, for people to be as healthy as they possibly can, it's never easy for anybody. They have to do the work. That'll conclude my rant about, controlling your weight and staying healthy and being accountable for that. We'll go on and we'll let Chris go ahead and talk about some examples he has of people showing lacks of accountability.
Yeah. And like right before I get into that, and just like the final closing thought on that, definitely cook at home, fix your own meal. That's no like, and that's literally been my secret. Is I've cooked more at home, been cooking with a lot more fish, a lot more steak, pork, and that's just why I'm getting a little bit more. I guess you say lean at this point.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. And guys, listen, being hungry doesn't necessarily mean that you're hungry. I have to word this very carefully, because if I say it wrong, people are going to be like, "Oh, you're telling me to starve myself?" No, I need to eat. You're telling I'm not going to starve myself. That's a disorder. No, I'm not telling you to starve yourself. I'm telling you the human body only needs 2 to 2,500 calories to survive. So if you eat 2,000 calories, 2,500 calories in a day, and you're hungry, you don't need to eat again. Your body's just telling you, "Hey, I want to eat." You don't need to eat. You're perfectly fine. If you ingest a healthy balance of 2,000 to 2,500 calories and you're hungry after that, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. Typically, you're just hungry because your mind says, well, we normally eat more than this. Let's eat more. So if you eat a healthy amount of calories and you eat healthy calories, you eat a healthy amount of food, if you're eating after that, you're just eating to eat. You're just eating because you want to. 2,000 to 2,500 a day. After that, if you get hungry, tell yourself, I'm not even really hungry. I just want to eat. That's literally it. Go to you'll be fine. Trust me, you're not going to die. You're not going to be starving yourself. You're not going to get extremely skinny. Yeah, a healthy amount of calories, eat a healthy amount of food, a well-balanced diet. Then if you get hungry, just be hungry. Right? I know that sounds awful to say, but if you're trying to get in shape and you're trying to slim down, one of the biggest ways to do it is simply by changing your diet. Most people, if you change your diet and you stick to it, not everybody can do this, but most people, if you simply change your diet and you stick to it, you're going to start trimming off a couple of pounds. Okay. It's just about being disciplined. It's just about taking accountability and being disciplined to say no to that extra cookie at 12 a.m. when you really shouldn't be eating. Chris, anything else on the weight subject?
No, that should be it. That's the only thing I wanted to add. So I'm gonna go ahead and go straight up to my point. And what I wanted to discuss for the accountability part is keyboard warriors. What is a keyboard warrior, you may be asking? And that is a person who makes abusive or aggressive posts on the internet, typically one who conceals their true identity. That was by Google. Why would I bring this up into the accountability? One, like it just said there, you can always conceal your identity. You don't have to say your name. Your face is not out there if you don't want it to be. So then people get it into their mind. I can say whatever I want without actual recourse. No, that's whatever you say on the internet stays on the internet. Whatever you say, you always have to take the accountability. And the one article that I have is when the hate raids had happened onto Twitch. For people who don't watch Twitch and stuff, it's literally when a group of people raid a person's stream and they fill that person's chat with hateful comments, derogatory terms. I will say that Twitch is now also taking legal actions, so they're now actually coming after people for those actions.
I'd say you lack a lot of accountability if you're willing to talk over the computer. If you're willing to talk over the internet, I'd say you lack accountability. You don't want to be accountable. Most people understand that what they say can lead to repercussions. What you say will have consequences. So if you're saying it over the computer, if you're saying it, typing it in someone's Twitch chat, or you're saying it, typing it in a YouTube comment, well, there's no repercussions here, so I don't got to take accountability for what I say. And I think what we're finding now is society is really pushing people to take accountability for that in order to be a true adult in today's society. If you are truly an adult, if you are truly an individual, if you are truly a man, you're not going to say it over the internet anyway. If you want to, personally, if you want to say anything to me over the internet, that's perfectly fine. I always say I'd much rather people talk behind my back or say something over a computer than say it to my face. If you're saying it behind my back, you're saying it out of fear, right? If you're typing things over the computer, you're saying it because you're afraid. I mean, if you're afraid of me, then good. Talk behind my back. I'm perfectly fine. I think there's a thin line between fear and respect. I think there's a very, very thin line between that. So I'm perfectly fine with people being afraid to say things to my face. But at the end of the day, if you're afraid to say it to my face, you lack accountability. Because you know, if you had to be held accountable for your actions, you don't want to face the repercussions. People who have accountability, they know when they make a decision, they say, okay, these are the consequences. And they weigh their consequences with a possible reward and they take it. And if you don't want to be accountable for your actions, if you don't want to be accountable for what you say, you seriously lack accountability. Chris, anything you want to add?
Yeah. The only thing I'll just add is, everybody at one point in time in their life has been a keyboard warrior, whether it's over the voice chats, over comments on Facebook, or whatever. Everyone has done it, whether they realize it or not. I know recently, especially where I stream, I have to take accountability for what I say, whatever I do, whenever I'm on. Even if I'm not streaming, I always have to be like, whoever I'm in the lobby with, it's like they could be potentially watching my content. I cannot be out of line and just say whatever I want. Even online, you're going to be held accountable no matter what.
Yeah, man. And I mean, hold yourself accountable to this, being a good person, being nice to people. That's going to take you so far. And then we'll get in more on this on episode 3, I think, when we talk about social skills and networking, etc. But being a good person, it's going to take you far. If you're trying to be somewhere and you're trying to be great, being a good person, it's going to get you perks and privileges that you might not even realize. Just being cordial, shaking people's hands, smiling, being nice, giving people compliments, things like that will get you so far. So far. Just be a good person in every aspect of your life. I know, like, over the keyboard, like, people might not know you, but if you're practicing that act, it's going to become a habit. So if you make a fake account, fake pictures, whatever, and you're like, you know what, I'll just be a bad person on this account. The real me's nice. I'm going to be a bad person on this account. Understand that is going to spill over. You become what you practice. So if you practice that and you act that way over the computer, it's going to spill over and the consequences are going to come back in your real life. So practice being a good person at all times, in all situations, and that's really going to take you far.
Moving on, if that's unless you have anything else you want to add on to that.
No, that's all. I mean, I guess continuing with having a lack of accountability, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about people being broke. Not having money is your fault. In this country, it's your fault. I have to say in this country, because as soon as I start this rant, people are going to say, well, what about people here and they can't work because they don't have job opportunity? That's not you, homie. Typically in the West, in Europe, I think Europe, but I know in the West, if you're broke, it's your fault. You've made the decision to be broke. And you don't want to hold yourself accountable to it. And then we're going to break this down in several different areas. But I'll say, first off, if you're a young man and you have little obligation, so you're single, 20, 21, maybe in a relationship, but you don't have any kids, you have very little obligation. Being broke is unexcusable. You can work. There's 168 hours a week. You can work 100 of those. You can work as much as you want. You have very little obligation. Why do we have so many 20, 21-year-olds that's not in college, they're not in school, they're working a job making $14 an hour and they're barely scraping by? Why aren't you working more? I work 70 to 90 hours a week. I'm able to eclipse certain milestones financially that some people probably never will in their entire life. And I know we have this big argument where people are talking about, well, I don't want to work that much. I need free time. I need time for myself, blah, blah, blah. What's the point of having free time if you can't enjoy it? What are you doing in your free time if you're broke? Sitting around playing video games? Get 1% better each and every single day. I can promise you, unless you're trying to make a career out of playing video games and you're really, really good at it, you're not getting better sitting around playing Minecraft on your PlayStation. It's not helping you. Take that time, put it into work. Put it into work. Make enough money, especially if you're young, and I wish I knew this at 18, 19, 20, 21. I really, really, really wish I knew this. Make enough money so your money can work for you. It is very possible for people to become millionaires by 26, 27. But you got to put in the work early, and you have no obligation. There is nothing stopping you from working as much as you want, putting a lot of money to the side and investing so that money can be returned to you. But you want to sit around and you want to make excuses for it. I don't have time. I don't want to do this. I need time to spend with my friends. Listen, I get with my friends once or twice a month. We get together once or twice a month, and then we travel a couple of times a year. I've given myself the privilege to travel. I think I'm going out of state 6 times, right? I'm going to Atlanta. I'm going to Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to Charlotte. And then I'm going out of the country. I'm going to Greece, Athens, Mykonos, right? But the only reason I'm able to do this is because I work so much, is because I have the money to do it. So you tell me what's better, working 40 hours a week and then getting with your friends, sitting around and smoking weed all day in your fucking basement, or working and then being able to spend time with your friends in freaking Mykonos. It's definitely going to be working. And then on top of this, on top of all this traveling I'm doing, I'm going to be able to get my first investment property next year. I already have the budget worked out. It's going to happen. And that's just going to put more money in my pocket. So I really, really urge young men to work as much as possible, save half, spend half, and enjoy your life, enjoy your youth on a level that a lot of people don't get to, right? I'm 25. A lot of people don't get to do the things I'm able to do at 25. I want you to enjoy your life, but you need money to do that. I want you to enjoy it. Then I want you to put yourself in a position where you're my age, 25, 26, 27, somewhere in that area, that you don't have to work 100 hours anymore. Now you only have to work 20 to 30 and you're making 100K because you worked while you was young. Now you've invested that money and that money's coming back to you and you're able to truly enjoy your life. You're able to truly experience financial freedom. You're able to drive nice cars. You're able to go nice places. You're able to travel the world. You're able to travel the country. You have no obligations right now, young blood. No obligations. Go work, have fun, reap your rewards from it. Trust me. If there's one thing I could tell young people, it's that. The next thing I'll touch about being broke, unless Chris, you have anything to add to that one.
No, the only thing I would truthfully add is I'm not in that position of where he's at, like we've said like countless times at the beginning of this podcast. But I am now so I started this week on my new job, and then I'm door dashing. So like as soon as this is done, I'm going to go straight to door dashing, and then I'm doing it on the weekends. So it's like I'm really now into that grind of getting out of being broke, to the point of I'm going to, at least by the end of this year, start to try to invest and learn to invest. Which this man right here will be the one to help me with that.
Right, and
that'll be the only thing I'll add.
I mean, if we could have done this younger, man. If I knew what I know now, some of you guys listening, you're 18, 19, 20, 21. If I knew what I knew now, if I knew it was as easy to make 80, 90K as it has been for me this year, I would have done it then. I would have been living this. I would have been having these experiences, living this life back in the past at 18, 19, 20. It's really not that hard. Working is really not that bad, especially if you have a good group of coworkers. Working is really not that bad. And then real estate is awesome. Yeah, man, I really urge people to get out there and work. A lot of you older guys, you're in debt, or some of you young guys, I know I was. By the age of 21, I had about $10,000 in bad debt. That's your fault as well. So a lot of people, they say, well, I'm in debt because I was taken advantage of by credit card companies. I'm in debt because I was convinced to go to school for a degree that wasn't worth it. I'm in debt because blah, 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 blah. But what did we say about accountability at the beginning? It's if you say I'm in debt because of X, you're not taking accountability. The only way to take accountability, I'm in debt because I, right? In a lot of cases with this, it's ignorance. You're in debt because you were ignorant. You did not know, you did not study, you did not do your research. And I'll say this, man, if someone takes advantage of your ignorance, it is your fault for being ignorant. You should have educated yourself. Doesn't make them any less of a shitty person, but it's still your fault for being ignorant, right? bad people exist in this world. This world is a cruel place, to be quite frank. This world is a dark place. The world is not nice. So people are going to take advantage of your ignorance. You cannot blame these people because you were ignorant. You need to educate yourself. Before you go into debt, you need to educate yourself on how debt works. Now, you may have made that mistake. You may have made that mistake. Therefore, it is your fault. I made this mistake. A lot of people make this mistake. But now it is on you to get yourself out of debt. And the only way you're going to get yourself out of debt in a quick and successful way is by what? Working. Go to work. Pay off your debt. Create a plan. Figure it out. You're the only person that's going to get yourself out of that situation. And then you are also in control of managing your money. Create a freaking budget. Okay? Stop operating in life without a budget. We're talking money, guys. You need to know where it's going. You need to have a plan. You wouldn't go into war. America would not go into war unless we had a battle strategy. You have to understand when it comes to finances, you're going into war. If you're making money, someone's losing money. If you're losing money, someone's making money. It's a competition. You're fighting. Go in with a battle plan. Go in with a strategy. If you need to get out of debt, go in with a strategy. If you're struggling with your money and you're spending money and you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't have a budget, I guarantee you'll find a lot of holes, man. So I looked online and it said that like in order to live comfortably in America, you need to make like $70,000 a year. And I thought this was garbage. So I'm making 80 to 90 this year. Last year I made 40. I made 49,000. And I was making enough to get myself out of debt. I was able to get furniture for my house. I made 49,000. And I did not get behind on my rent. I did not get behind on any payments. And then I paid off a vast majority of my debt was paid off by the end of last year. A little bit spilled over into this year, but a vast majority of it was paid off by the end of last year. That's why I've been able to put a lot of money back this year, and I've had the time to kind of do the things I wanted to do, and the money to do the things I wanted to do, because I really don't have any what I would call red debt. The only debt I have now, I use credit cards. I typically pay them off at the end of the month. I have a school loan from I was a year in college, so I still have a school loan. That's kind of bad. I could have paid it off. I kind of just keep it around because it helps my credit score. I think that's the only debt I have currently is school and credit cards. But I mean, 49,000, I was able to live comfortably as a single man, here. I would say in most places, and this is my own personal opinion, I would say most places, in Kentucky at least, if you're in Kentucky, $14 an hour, and you can serve if you're single, not if you're providing for a child or another person, but if you're single, I mean, 14 should be enough for you to find a place to live, put food on the table, maybe put a little bit aside for savings. Now you're not going to have all the nice stuff. Like, you're not going to have a nice car. You're not going to have like the nicest house, the nicest place. You'll probably be somewhere paying $600 a month, and you can get rentals for $600-700 in Kentucky. I see them all the time. Yeah, I mean, Chris, you have some experience. You have some experience living on lower incomes. What's your opinion on it?
So in order for me to explain what I'm about to say, so I lived in an apartment. And my apartment rent was $565, all utilities, but sorry, but electric and internet, which my electric was about $60 a month, and then my internet was $50 a month as well. So now, if you sit there and do the math, that's almost up to $700 right there. Now, I also had a car payment, and that car payment, I believe, was right at $212. I was making at that time. I don't mind saying it, Lowe's. They're not competitive wages, anyways. I was making $13.13 at the time. Now, $13.13 at the time. My monthly output for just bills. This is exclusively just for bills. Literally was 96% of what I brought home on working 40 hours a week. Now, the only reason why I was able to, I guess you could say, go almost 2 years like that, one, I got a little financial help because I got a loan for my got a loan for my car and had a little bit left over to be able to get some food and stuff. But two, I budgeted like hell. Being on the lower income was I learned to budget. I learned to write down where everything went. And even though we're making a lot of money, that's literally I'll show a little bit of it. This notebook. That's numbers. That's me breaking down where's my money going. Because one, I need to know. I don't even care if I'm about to be making $50, $60 an hour. I'm still going to write down what bills I have, what's going where, because that's what helped me survive for 2 years on my own with a lower income.
Yeah. So if I could add to that, so 13 and then 96%. So that is kind of tough. So maybe 14 is kind of hard to survive. My big thing is, man, with the income thing, I think 13 could have worked. My brain always goes to 40 hours a week not being enough. I think that's crazy. I think if you increase that to 50 hours, maybe 55 hours a week, then that would have been more than enough to support you. Plus, you get rid of the car payment. And the reason being, the average person who makes 100K works 60. So if that's one of your goals, then 40 hours definitely isn't enough, right? And then a lot of millionaires, a lot of people who earn a lot of money, a lot of people who have a lot of money, a lot of people who never have to work again, they're working more than 40 hours a week. So 40 hours, I know that's kind of like our standard, but that's really not a lot. There's 168 hours a week. You're only spending 40 of it on improving yourself financially. And even if and I'm not saying like you need to work a 9 to 5, right? Like your side hustle, you can put an extra 5 to 10, 13, 14 becomes a struggle if you're working 40. But I think if you have the potential, but I just think people should be working more hours. And if your job only allows you to work 40, then you need to get another job. You need to get a second job.
No, I totally agree. And that's the thing that, it took me a couple years to get around that concept of 40 is not enough. And, it's I guess the job that truthfully it made it aware for me, even though I hate it. I will never go back to it. Buc-ee's. Working the 13 days straight. I hated it, but at the end of the day, my paychecks were sitting there all nice and pretty. And I was like, I get to do stuff, but I hated it. I'll go ahead and say I work for Amazon, but I'm also door dashing. So that both of those are weekly paychecks. Amazon's easily be a little bit over $600. I do DoorDash, get another additional $200-$300. Boom. I'm going to start
$200-$300 a week.
That's yes, $200-$300 a week.
Yeah.
That's because I can earn at least $100 a day on usually 4 to 5 hours of dashing.
Okay, so I mean, when you look at that income, dude, I think that's a really good income to start. That's $800 to $900 a week, and if we play with the lower end of $800, that's $3,200 a month, and that's that's a really good bring home, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good bring home income, $3,200. That comes from you working a little bit of extra every single week. And I know we have this idea in society that, oh, well, people only need to work 40 hours. That's kind of like the standard work week. But I think that idea and that concept is a societal concept that we've created that's really detrimental to people. I think it doesn't help people. I think it doesn't encourage people to be the best they can be. I think in a lot of ways, society doesn't allow us to win. Society doesn't want us to flourish. So they tell us things like, oh, yeah, you should only work 40 hours a week to keep us down, to keep us broke. And that's something we'll probably address at another podcast. I don't want to rant about it too much because I will go forever. This man knows. So I'm not going to get too much into that. But yeah, you should definitely be thriving to work more. You definitely don't need to make $70K a year. That's a lot of I don't want to say it's a lot of money, but that's a good amount of money to be what most people would consider comfortable or beyond comfortable. The issue is a lot of people can't manage their money. So when they make 40, 50, 60, 70K a year, it doesn't even matter because they don't know how to create a budget. They don't know how to manage their money. So people who are making 70 are living paycheck to paycheck and essentially the same financial situation as someone who's making 50. The only difference is the person who's making 70, they might have a little bit bigger of a house or a little bit nicer of a car, but they still have the same financial struggles. That's kind of how that works. I also want to point this out. If you are a young man, you need to provide for your family. So a lot of young men say, well, I don't want to work more because I need to spend time with my family. If you are a young man in America, you have a duty, you have an obligation to provide for your family. You need to be the one that's willing to sacrifice time with your family to give them the life that they deserve. Even if you're not a big fan of your baby moms or there's something going on in that aspect, you owe it to your child to provide. So if you need to say, sit down with your girl, with your wife, with your baby moms, whatever, and say, I need to work more so I can give you the life you deserve. I'm not going to be around. I'm going to be working a lot more. You need to do that. You owe that to your child. And I know that we have this weird societal concept. Well, the fathers don't need to work so much, blah, 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 blah. The fathers need to be around more. But listen, I think they may not understand it when they're young, but most people, as they get older, they understand my father was not around so that I could live the wonderful life I lived, and I respect and love him for it. At the end of the day, that's what your child will say. They will respect you more if you were to sacrifice the time to give them a better life than if you were not to sacrifice the time and be around. Reality is going to hit one day, and your child's either going to say, my father did everything he could for me, or my father could have done more. And if you're around and you're talking, but they can't do this and they don't get a chance to have the nice clothes and they don't have the chance to travel and they don't have the chance to experience their childhood like they should because you wasn't there to provide that for them, but you're there every day. Oh, I get to spend time with you. I get to do this. They're going to say, well, my father could have given me a better childhood. Like, sure, he was around, but I don't know why he didn't make more money. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be a reality that hits them, and it's your job. It's your job. Young men need to provide for their families. I think that is a concept that is lost in this country. I think that is a concept that is missing in this country. Young men no longer want to provide. Young men want to find reasons to not provide. They want to find reasons to not work. As a young man, if you have a family, you need to provide for your family. You need to provide for your family. That is your goal. That is your duty. That is your obligation. That is your role in the family to provide for them, to provide for your child at the very least. Continuing on to reasons why people are broke and to people lacking accountability for it. The other thing is people will literally reject jobs because they don't want to work them. They simply don't want to work. And they'll create these excuses as to why it's not their fault, as to why they don't take accountability for them working, as to why they shouldn't take accountability for them not working, because jobs are available. You're simply making these excuses. You will literally tell me that you can't work a job because you're not worth what they pay you. I had a guy, I was in Ohio, I was in Dayton, and a guy comes up and he knocks on my window. And I roll the window down and we have a conversation. And this man literally tells me that he's asking me for change. And he's telling me that he could get a job at McDonald's, but he doesn't want to work there because he's not worth no $7.25 an hour. You're not worth shit if you're not making shit, homie. What do you mean you're not worth $7.25? You're knocking on my door asking me for change. What do you think you're worth? You telling me you can get a job, but you're not doing it? Because you're not work, like that's just an excuse for you not to work. You don't want to work at McDonald's, therefore you're not. You're not making anything. If I was broke, if I was homeless, if I'm living on the streets, if I'm asking people for change, I'm going to McDonald's before I allow myself to ask somebody for change and tell them I'm worth more than $7.25. You're not worth nothing. Society's going to view you for how much money you make. That's how we're going to view your worth. You can't tell me what you're worth if you're not making anything. You can't go to somebody with a product and say, this is worth $10,000. You need to pay me $10,000. The economy is going to determine what it's worth. If people are willing to pay $5,000 for it, then it's worth $5,000. If people are willing to pay you $10 an hour, then you're worth $10 an hour. If you can work and you can make $100K in a year, then you're worth $100K in a year, because that's the value you provided to the world. You can't say my value is $100K and no one's willing to pay you $100K. You're not worth $100K. You're worth what people are willing to buy. You're worth what people are willing to pay. That's how your value is determined. You don't determine your own value. No one in the history of ever has determined their own value. You're not worth shit if you're not making shit. You're worth what you create. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
When you were rambling on about the young men, providing, the thing that I will say, and I've always had with me, is that's been one of those things that's always been instituted in me, just the way that's how my family was. Watching my grandpa always work, put it in 60, 70 hours in on construction sites, painting, and that still carries over to me with me today. I live living in a house with my girlfriend. When she, we're at our lowest right now, but yet I'm still providing. And that's just because I'm taking that responsibility. She doesn't like me working these longer hours, not being able to see me. But at the end of the day, she's not complaining that there's no food in the kitchen. The cats are well fed. We're still fine, and that's because, like he said, young men need to take the responsibility of providing. And ever since that, I've taken more control to providing, mentally wise, I've been better.
Yeah, I think intrinsically men want to provide. I think we just get lazy, or we need to provide intrinsically. Like, it's a natural thing for us, and we don't want to, therefore we don't. And I think it seriously mentally affects men, especially whenever we're in a situation where someone's providing for us, or we are dependent on somebody. And I can speak to this from personal experience. When I felt dependent on other people, I was definitely at a lower mental state than I am now, when I can honestly say I don't need anybody. When I can honestly say that I can stand on my own 2 feet, I'm definitely at a better mental state now. I think men are designed to be providers, and it's better for us if we are. I just don't think we want to a lot of the time, so we don't. And I think that actually is going to lead back into our mental state and our mental status, and it's really going to affect us. I mean, I think it's something that we just need to do, and I think, honestly, man, and if someone sits down and they talk to their family and they talk to their significant other and they say, well, I'm not going to be around as much because I'm working, they might at first kind of give some pushback, like, no, I want to see you, blah, blah, blah. But when that check comes in, they're not going to care anymore. Like, when that check comes in and they see all this money and they're traveling and when they do spend time with you, it's an adventure, it's a treat, because you have the money to take them out and you have the money to do things with them. I think they're going to say, well, good thing he's working a little more. It's a good thing that he's not around so much, because now when he's around, we can actually have fun. We can actually do things together. So I think at first you might get a little pushback on that. It'll always end up being better in the long run. And it's always going to end up creating a better relationship for you and your family if you're willing to work that.
That, like you said, that first initial that pushback, it's like, oh, I can't handle this pushback. But then it's like, I know at least for me, I didn't really keep pressing the issue. I just more or less just like, hey, I'm going to be doing two jobs. And the first thing she's like, oh, so I guess I ain't going to see you as much. It's like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. But from you know me well. Whenever I get feedback like that, I normally take it at face value at first. Then I tend to walk away and dwell on it. But see, when I do that to her, she gets all upset for like 2 days, and then come back and it's like, oh yeah, I've got $400 or $500. You want me to go get you some food? Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. See, they're only
real quick change.
They're only mad until the check comes. Once the check comes, they're like, this is kind of worth it. You know what I'm saying? Then they're going to get mad if you don't work. So then they're going to get mad. Like, you're around too much. Get away. You know what I'm saying?
When I do know that there's going to be certain days a couple days in a row that I'm not going to be able to see her, what I'm tending to do is like, all right, right before I go to DoorDash, I'm going to go visit her at work and say, hey, I'm in town. I'm going to just say hello to you, let you know I'm out about to go do my second job. but I just wanted to come see you, let you know there's coffee or whatever at home. That's the only thing I was just gonna say. Like there is all you can always make the time to see people and still be able to do, but put in as many hours as you can, even if it's just 5 minutes, enough to sit there and just see them, say hello, whatever. That's still worth it in the end.
I mean, you can put that time in your schedule. Again, I think scheduling helps you take accountability, and that's something we'll kind of talk about later in this podcast. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself about your situation, about why you're in your situation. I think that society teaches us to lack accountability. I mean, if we go back to the excuses about obesity, when we're telling people, your weight's not your fault, or even being extremely skinny, it's not your fault. You have a high or low metabolism. You have an eating disorder. You have a bad relationship with food. I mean, say that out loud to yourself. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We create these excuses for people to be broke. Oh, it's not your fault. You're worth more than that job, or you have so much more potential. You can't work that, or you're only supposed to work 40 hours a week. We create so many excuses in society that allows us to lack accountability. And at the end of the day, no one wants to be a POS. Nobody wants to be a POS. Nobody wants to look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm really not worth anything. I've really allowed myself to be broke. I've allowed myself to be in debt. I've allowed myself to be overweight. I've allowed myself to be unhealthy. I've allowed myself to not have a good social status. I've allowed myself to essentially be a bum. Nobody wants to look themselves in the eye and do that. It's one of the hardest things in the world, is to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. But I'll tell you this, Chris had recently done it with himself. I had to do it with myself about 2.5 years ago. I had to look in the mirror at myself and say, Darien, you have piled on massive amounts of debt. You do not work enough. You do not want to work. You have been lazy. You have not managed your money correctly. You have been dependent on other people. You are not a man. You are not a true individual that can take care of himself. You haven't been that. You haven't been that. And I had to look myself in the eye and say that. And it's one of the hardest things to do, because you admit to being flawed. You admit to being a flawed human. You admit to being not the person you want to be. And it's really hard. That's a really hard obstacle to overcome. But it's really important in this process, because that's really the first step to taking accountability. And then once you start taking accountability, you start breaking those social constructs of being overweight is your fault. You start breaking these concepts of being an introvert, and that's just your personality and you can't help it. You really start breaking these social concepts as soon as you look in the mirror and you take accountability.
The thing is about humans. I'm just going to touch a little base about it. It's humans want to learn. We're always going to learn. You can learn accountability. It's always there.
There's a quote by Brandon Mull, and it goes, smart people learn from their mistakes, but the real sharp ones learn from the mistakes of others. When you look at that quote, I think it relates directly to accountability and taking accountability. I think it relates directly to people wanting to learn, because in order to learn from your decisions, in order to learn from your mistakes, you have to take accountability for them. So if you want to be a smart person, you have to take accountability for them. And again, we want to learn naturally as people. We want to learn. We want to grow. We want to advance. Tony Robbins, he explained one time that true happiness is going to be in growth, because that's what we want as people. People want to grow. People want to expand. And in order to do that, you have to take accountability. You have to look yourself in the mirror and you have to say, I did this because of X. If you're not able to say it's your fault, if you're not able to say, I did this, you're not going to learn from it. Because if it's the fault of someone else, there's nothing you can do about it. If it's the fault of some outside force, there's nothing you can do about it. And then to break down the second part of that quote, the real sharp ones learn from the mistakes of others. You need to be able to observe the life of others. You need to be able to observe the life of people who have been through it. You need to be able to observe the life of people who are successful and say, okay, these are the mistakes they made. How do I prevent this from happening to me? You need to say, well, I witnessed that. If that happens to me, it is my fault. You need to be able to take accountability. Taking accountability, it gives you absolute control over your situation. It gives you absolute control over your level of happiness. It gives you absolute control over your environment. So it's two sides to the same coin, right? Two sides of the same coin. In one hand, you have to look in the mirror and you have to say, it is my fault I am broke. It is my fault I am fat. It is my fault I don't have friends. It is my fault I am unhappy with my life. But because you have absolute control, because you have now taken accountability for everything that's happened to you, it is you now are able to get in shape, make more money, improve your social skills, make more friends, and improve your happiness. And when you get there, now it is your fault. It is you are the one that made yourself happy. You are the one that earned everything you earned. You are the one that's worked to make yourself better. So it's like, it's two sides of the same coin. On one end, it's really hard to look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm a POS. But it's really good to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I was a POS, but now I'm something. I am a contributing member of society. It's hard to look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm a POS. But it feels really good to say, you know what, all these things, I may have put myself in this situation, but I can get myself out of it. I can grow out of it. I think that's something we lack in this society is we take away accountability. So when people get upset, when people start feeling depressed, they have it in their head that it's not their fault that they feel depressed. That the world hates them. The world is negative against them. They get it in their head that there's nothing they can do for themselves because they lack accountability, and that keeps them down. But if they had it in their head that I can make it better, that would definitely be the first step into helping them get out of that state, right? So accountability is really, really important for fixing your life situation, for fixing your surroundings, because if nothing's in your control, if you allow nothing to be in your control, if you don't take accountability for anything that happens to you, you can't fix anything. And if you can't fix anything, then you're just doomed to be miserable.
Definitely 100%. It's learning accountability is definitely one of those building blocks. It's definitely the step in the right direction. And I'm not saying I'm a POS. I look in the mirror because used to I hated looking in the mirror. I hated it so much. Like I would avoid it so much. Now I can sit there and go, you know what, Chris? What can I do today? That'd be very more productive than I have been. That's a long way. And it's very going a very long way.
I think taking accountability is hard. This is something that you've recently done. So do you want to kind of walk us through how you take accountability or how you've taken accountability recently, or the steps that you need to take to go through accountability?
My first step of accountability was finance. My next step of accountability was to work. Accountability was on myself as an individual. Instead of giving reasons and letting people walk on me, I sat there and said, Chris, set a boundary. If you do not like people doing this to you, you need to sit there and speak up and say, hey, I do not like that. And you can ask this man right here, I hate doing it. I'm so nice. But the first step I did to that was when I had an abusive ex. And I took this step and said, hey, I'm walking away from this. If you're going to be like this, I'm walking away. I gave you one too many chances. And that was my first step of accountability to myself personally. The next step was for to be more accountable for myself was set up a routine, because without a routine, cannot really start setting up the day for myself. And then after that, the next accountability, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, and it's my work accountability. Because I was, like we talked about earlier, I was stuck in that I just only want 40 hours. That's all I want. But it took me getting into a hobby that I want to make into a career to make me finally realize 40 hours is not going to cut it. And we've said this entire podcast as well. 40 hours will never cut it. But it'll
cut it, but you'll never get to where you actually want to be.
And I'll be quite honest, when I started making $20 an hour, I was like, I can start doing stuff. No, I didn't hold myself accountable to start doing that stuff. And that's the reason why now I'm working the 2 jobs, maybe going to 3. I'm holding myself accountable at this point to saying, if I want this hobby to turn into a career, I need to be accountable to, 1, make the money, 2, make the hours to work. That doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it doesn't take a whole lot for me to hold myself accountable. And now I do know that my next step in holding myself accountable is being more social. You can ask this man right here. I'm the definition of antisocial. You can text me, and you won't hear from me for 3 days.
You've been doing better with that, though. A lot better.
Trying to.
I used to be really bad with it too until real estate.
For me to hold myself accountable and start to take those steps into it, it took me to be in a position where I was by myself and I had to sit there and look at myself and say, hey, yeah, stuff's got to change here. Do you want to kind of break down like your accountability?
I mean, the first step for me was looking in the mirror. And then from there, it was taking control of my finances. After taking control of my finances, it was getting in physical shape. After getting in physical shape, it was really, at this point, getting 1% better each day and holding myself accountable for it. So if I wake up, no matter how I feel, no matter if I'm sick, no matter if I'm under the weather, no matter if I had a dramatic event happen, I get 1% better. I obtain some type of knowledge. I do some type of exercise. I manage money. I get 1% better each day in every aspect of my life, whether that's financial, whether that's physical, whether that's real estate, whether that's, Toyota. I really, really tried to learn something in every aspect at everything I do. And that's where I am now, to hold myself accountable for that. That's why it's very rare for me not to skip a day at the gym. It's very rare for me to miss a day at work. It's very rare for me to not read something about real estate, about the market. It's very rare for me to not do some type of lead generation. It's very rare for me not to do something even with this podcast every single day, because in everything I'm working on, I try to get 1% better. It's very rare for me to not reach out to one of my friends, because my relationships, obviously, that's something else that's important. It's very rare for me to not look in the mirror and say something good about myself, because, my mental health, the way I view myself, that's important as well. I think that's a good thing. I don't see where that's bad. I wake up and I automatically know I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. I go to bed, I'm better than I was yesterday. So me and Chris had talked, and we kind of created 5 ways that you can start taking accountability. And we kind of broke down 5 steps to taking accountability. And I would say these 5 steps you would apply to every decision you make to be sure that you are accountable for every decision. Okay, so when you break down these 5 things, define what you want as your outcome, determine the likelihood of desired outcome, assess all possible outcomes, consequences of the decision you're about to make, decide if you're willing to accept the outcomes and consequences and what adjustments you're willing to make, then take action. This goes to everything. This goes to being overweight. This goes to being broke. This goes to improving your social circle, everything. If you look in the mirror and you say, well, I'm kind of overweight, and you need to make a decision on whether you're going to lose weight or not, you got to walk through these steps to truly take accountability for it, right? You got to say, okay, so what is my end goal? You got to look at it. You got to say, okay, so how likely is my end goal if I make these steps? You got to say, what is the outcome of this process? You got to say, okay, what are the consequences? Then you got to take action, whether that action is that you actually start monitoring, getting up and doing the things you need to do, or not doing the things you need to do. Both of those are actions. Both of those are actions decided upon you. Okay. If I could really, really break down a way to hold yourself accountable for everything, I would say create a plan. Right? Everybody needs to have a plan. Everybody needs to have an overall goal or dream. Everyone needs to have a dream, a place they want to hit, and everyone needs goals that lead them to this dream, right? And you should have this in life. I have a saying, and it goes, life without dreams is like driving with no destination. You never know where you're going to end up. And dreams without goals or stepping stones to these dreams is like trying to reach a destination with no navigation. You could get lost. And when you create this plan and you make these dreams and you lay this out, you are now saying, hey, I'm accountable for reaching this. I have this dream and I have these stepping stones. I have these goals that I have to do in order to reach that dream. And that needs to be your process with every decision you make in life. Those 5 steps need to be your process with every decision you make in life. You need to have a dream, an overall goal, and then you need to create stepping stones to reach it. If you don't do that, then it's going to be a lot harder to do it. Okay? That in and of itself, creating this plan, creating this structure, this outline, in and of itself is going to help you take accountability, because now it's up to you to make those decisions, to make those steps, to take those stepping stones and to go through those obstacles to reach where you want to reach. So everybody should strive to have a dream. Everyone should strive to make a plan. I have a 10-year plan. You can start with a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, whatever. But everybody needs a plan. Everybody needs to know where they're going. If you don't know where they're going, you could end up anywhere on planet Earth, and it might not be a place you like. It more than likely won't be a place you like. Imagine getting in your car. You're like, hey, I want to go somewhere fun. You pull out, and then you're driving, and you don't know where you're going to go. Right? You're going to end up in the middle of Kansas somewhere in some cornfield, and you're almost out of gas. You don't know where the next gas station is, right? Then you're like, you know what? I want to go to California. You get in your car and you start driving. You're not paying attention to road signs. You don't got a map. You don't got a GPS. You might not end up in California. You could end up in Maine. You don't know where you're going. You have no navigation, right? That's exactly how you need to look at life. You would never hop in your car and just start driving. You would know where you want to go. You would put the destination in on your GPS. You would get a map. You would know how to get there, and you would drive there that way. That's exactly how you need to view life, and that's exactly what's going to help you take accountability.
And I'll go ahead and sit here and say is like I finally took the action to make my plan. My plan's not as big as his or as more defined as his, but that's for right now. The plan I've got right now is fine until I start to get more into the progress and be more accountable on update, and not just updating it, but making it bigger, expanding it. I love the quote that he's made, and truthfully, it's going to be a slogan. I'm going to sit here and say it, but he is 100% right.
I'll repeat that multiple times,
and
throughout the pod life of the podcast, I will repeat that multiple times.
And like I can say here, and I'll vouch for it, because like you can ask D, what was my mindset back in high school? My mindset back in high school was, I just want a simple life. I don't want anything. I don't want too much. I don't want too little. No, get that out of here. That's done, gone. That's no. I don't know why I ever thought that, and I'm so glad that's
society teaches us that we just want. Society teaches us to be average, and they tell us that average is okay. But once you start going past average, you realize that you never wanted to be average. You always wanted to be great. Most people want to be great,
and that's learning. That was me learning it the hard way. See, that was I was 18 when I said that, and I'm 26 now, so 8 years. It took me 8 years to sit there and get that in my mind. And he's like, yeah, no, we're not average no more. We're going extreme. We're going to go be extraordinary. People will remember my name. You know, that's what it will be.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I wish I knew this younger. Hopefully, some younger audiences listen to this and they get motivated. If you're truly content with just being average and not being great, you be average, live your life, die. Nobody will remember your name. You won't have a legacy. Nobody will care. And I know that sucks to say, oh, what do you mean die? Nobody cares. Yeah, not dying, nobody cares. You see celebrities die. There's thousands of people that are heartbroken. There's millions of people who are crushed. There's millions of people who cry for these. The people go up and they talk about he made an impact on so many people. He had an impact on so many people's lives. That's how I want to go out. I want to go out with having an impact. I want to go out with a legacy. I want to go out with a reason to remember my name, even if it's just a small group of people who say, you know what, he changed my life. That's what I want. But most people, you'll never change anybody's lives. Most people, you'll never do anything so significant that there's a reason for people to remember you. Really, we as people, we want that. We want to thrive for that. We want to reach that level. It's really hard to have constant progression, to have constant growth and still be miserable. It's not the way we're wired. Now, some people can be that way. Very, 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 very few people. And a lot of you are going to be content and happy, and you're going to be average, and you're going to live an average life, and you'll be happy with that. That's perfectly fine. Most people would be happier if they thrived for greater. Most people would be happier if they had a chance to see the world, if they had a chance to explore, if they had the chance to drive their dream cars, to live in their dream homes, to have their dream wife, their dream clothes. If money's not an object and they can live, most people would be happier living that. And you can be happy with an average life, but you would be a lot happier if you had financial freedoms, if you had physical health, if you had the things that we're trying to help you achieve with this podcast.
Oh no, that's just pretty much just rounding it out. It's just, I want to be able to make such a impact that because for me, I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered as one, the guy who helped out where he could. Two, I want to be remembered having that impact to change the life. Good. I mean, I can't control what other people do, but yeah, that'll be what I'll round it about.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things that I think everyone should thrive for is greatness. That's everything that we have for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. This is our first broadcast. Again, we have a great team behind us that's really trying to push this. And again, I just want everyone to walk away with one thing. If there was one thing we said that helped you, if there's one thing we said that motivated you, that pushed you to become better, that made you realize or take accountability, then we did our job. You don't have to watch another podcast. Okay. We did what we wanted to do. We did what we wanted to get out of this. And whatever platform you're on, if you enjoyed it, if you want to see us continue, YouTube, subscribe, Spotify. I think you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Go ahead, save us, give us a like. And if there's something you think we can improve on, leave a comment, man. Like we are definitely open to criticism. If there's something we're doing wrong, we're definitely open to hear it. We want to know. If you think that you could come on the podcast and you could benefit from being on the podcast, we are actually going to do that through our Instagram page, Faith is Motivation Pod. So go ahead, give us a follow on there, shoot a message, and somebody within our team will get back with you. They'll message back through our social media, and then that might be something we can schedule. That might be something we can work out. Chris, do you have any last final closing thoughts?
Any last closing thoughts? Hold yourself accountable to making a plan. Make that first step. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of failure. Failure is free knowledge.
Yeah. Failure is really good. One more time, just to give you guys a schedule. Every Sunday, we release the official podcast. It is going to be cut. It is going to be clean. It is going to be straight to the point. And then on Tuesday, you will get the longer version with all the uhs, the ums, the pauses, and weird laughs and awkward things that may happen and little bumps and dents. And then you'll get the video with it. That is a YouTube exclusive, so will only be released on YouTube. Don't expect to see a big, long podcast uploaded to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We're not going to do that. Only the official releases will go on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Then you get that YouTube exclusive on Tuesday with video. And then on Thursday, you will get another bit of content, whether that is going to be a quick tip, whether that is going to be a quick interview, whether that is going to be on-street interviews, whether it's going to be, just us joking around or it'll be some type of content that is also YouTube exclusive, and it is also going to come with video. Then we'll have shorts and things. We'll have Instagram content, Facebook content come out during the week. We might drop small videos on YouTube, or we might do, quick clips on a Wednesday or a Monday or a Saturday, whenever we decide to. We're still working with our team to determine exactly what content's going to go out and when. But it is something that we're going to do. And obviously we're going to try to deliver you the best quality product possible. We want to. So again, we want your feedback. Comment if you like it. Comment if we helped you. Subscribe. And that's really all we ask is, is for your feedback, and, hit the thumbs up, because we're really trying to provide value. That's really our job, is to provide value and give back to you guys. So, Chris, if you have anything to add before we sign off.
Yeah, follow us on socials, and if you want to reach out to either of us, at the beginning of the podcast, our socials.
Actually, let's go ahead and plug those. Let's plug those one more time. My social media is the Hawk40, Instagram, Facebook, the Hawk Agent on Instagram, the Hawk Realtor on Instagram, the Hawk Agent on Facebook, and those are my business accounts. So if you want to do real estate, please try to hit me up on those. Please try to hit me up on those. That way I know it's a real estate. But if you just have questions about the podcast, don't ask me to come on the podcast on my personal accounts. Please do that. Like, if you do that, I'm just going to send you a link to the podcast Instagram. But if you have a question about self-improvement, building yourself, a question about how I got to where I got to, or anything that you want my opinion on, feel free to message me. Shoot me a message on my socials. Again, the Hawk40, Instagram and Twitter, the Hawk Realtor, Instagram, the Hawk Agent, Facebook. Chris, go ahead and plug yours one more time.
All right. For me, it's going to be Reaper Kill Streak on Twitch, Facebook Gaming, and Instagram. If you are wanting to reach out to me, email will be the best, because I'm constantly checking my email. So Reaper Kill Streak 859@gmail.com, and reach out to me, because I'm in the rebuilding part. If you want to ask me a couple questions, feel free to ask me. And if you want to swing by my streams, then you can pop in there and ask if you want to. That will be on Facebook Gaming and Twitch, and right now I'll be streaming in the mornings for that.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We hope to see you next week. It's been really fun. It's been a great experience. Next week we will be covering discipline. After that, we'll be covering social skills, which we should have a special guest for that. And then we'll be covering mental health, mental illness, and that's going to set the platform for success for you guys. Thanks for joining us. Have a nice day. Peace.